I set up this standalone serial terminal using a cheap yellow display in a 3D printed enclosure and a serial terminal sketch I found on GitHub, so that when I'm doing Arduino projects and I want to see serial debug output, I can just connect it up to one of these and not be tethered to a laptop, which is never really convenient in my setup. And this wasn't the most straightforward thing for me to get working, and it's probably still not optimal, but it's good enough for what I'm doing. So I'm going to try to retrace my steps and go through how to get it all operating. So there's different types of cheap yellow display. I have two here that are very similar, but there is a difference. This one is a 2.8-inch touch display, resistive. So some of them have part numbers on the back, but I've even seen them having the same part number but a slightly different configuration. This one has USB-C as well as a micro USB, and then this 4-pin header with 5 volts, TXRX, and ground, so you can do TTL serial or USB. There's a micro SD card slot, a couple more GPIO headers, the ESP module, a 2-pin speaker output because there's an audio amplifier on here, and then there's the standard reset and boot buttons to control the module. So this one having the 2 USB connectors on the side, that's slightly different from the one I have in here. On that side, we only have micro USB and then that 4-pin UART header. And also, if you were to line these up, the micro USB on this one is further down to make more room to put the extra header. So with that in mind, one thing I did with this older one, only having micro USB, I 3D printed this enclosure I found, and it was set up for just the micro USB and the 4-pin header. If I wanted to use this one, I'd either have to find a different case or look up again how to edit 3D files and create the proper openings right there. But I liked this one at the time because it also has this angled stand you place on the work surface, and then the display is looking up at you so you can easily see what's going on. And the way it's set up with 4 places for screws, I used brass threaded inserts, M3, and I just melted them down into here so I could put M3 screws. And this back mount is just an optional thing that you attach on the bottom screws if you want this as a feature. So everything that I would need for this project is accessible, and it just sits on the workbench, and I can hook this up to a project and get serial output. To get started with understanding the cheap yellow display, over on Brian Locke's GitHub area, there's some information and some example projects. In the original documentation area, there's things including schematics, but basically the cheap yellow display is one of these yellow ESP32 boards with the touch screen on it, and there's lots of other information and tutorials. And here is a part number that may be printed on the back of modules. The one I have here ends in 28. It doesn't have an R at the end, but it does have 2 USB headers there, compared to the documentation where there's only the micro USB, not the extra USB-C. So little differences like this between boards are where I ran into some trouble, but in general, these tutorials tend to use the TFT-E SPI library for the display, graphics, etc. And the project I modified to get my serial terminal working also uses this. So first, that library can be installed in the Arduino IDE. I'm using version 2.5.43 right now, and I'm in the Arduino IDE 2.3.4. And my ESP32 board file is 3.2.1. I try to always make note of those things because if something breaks in the future, at least I can roll back to what I knew to be good at one point in time. But after the TFT-E SPI library is installed, this is one area where it started to get confusing because with all of these files that get installed in the Arduino library folder for this TFT display, you have to go in and manually edit this user setup select.h, and you have to either add a new line or uncomment an existing line. For example, by default, the library is set to include a file called usersetup.h. And these files include configuration like what are your SPI pin numbers, and if there's any basic graphics font things, they may be specified there just to get started. So if this specific file doesn't have the right configuration for your hardware, there's all these other predefined ones that exist. So you just comment out this one and uncomment whichever one you know happens to work. For example, there's the ST7735 display, the ILI 9341 display, and whether it's for an ESP8266 or whatever. But long story short, I put my copy of the project I'm working from over on GitHub, and in my sketch folder, I have a user setup cheap yellow display ILI 9341.h file. So that has to be copied to the TFT display library folder. So I'm making notes here as I go. I'm still working on it. After we install the TFT SPI library, we have to figure out where the Arduino IDE stores our installed libraries, and then copy in this user setup CYD ILI 9341 header file from the sketch folder over to where the library is. And in my case, here's where Arduino installs libraries. Here's the TFT SPI. So I copied in this user setup file from my sketch. Then I have to edit the user setup select.h file. And I comment out any of these other user setup include statements. And I just have my own include this file name that I copied in. So now this library knows I'm using a cheap yellow display and I've configured certain pins and things like that. So this whole thing just got more convoluted the longer I worked on it. So let's just say we did this part successfully. We copy in this CYD file. We edit user setup select to point to that. Then we should be done with the actual Arduino library config. And now this is the serial terminal project that I started modifying for this cheap yellow display, but I could not use it as it is because with different types of these displays, the one used in this original project uses the ST7789 display chip, which I do not. And on this board, that display interface as well as the XPT2046 touchscreen interface are both wired on the same SPI pins. Mine are on different pins, so I had to start going in and looking through all of these files to figure out how come nothing's working for me. So back on Brian Locke's original collection of information, so here's the touchscreen chip, and here's the SPI pins. For example, the clock is GPIO 25, but if we go over to the display graphic chip, the serial clock is GPIO 14. So these are two different SPI buses, and I cannot use this existing demo sketch the way it is. In the end, I found this other DDX Fish Arduino library for that touch display interface, and this one is bit banging. It's basically manually writing to an SPI port on pins that you get to define in the sketch. So I copied out these two files and I just put those into my sketch so I can make any other changes I need as I go. And going back to the instructions I'm compiling as I go here, after we had set up the TFT SPI library, we have to work on this touchscreen and we have to do a calibration. So basically when we do what we're about to do, it'll make us hold down in the top left corner till it says change over to the bottom right corner, and then it will know the coordinates of the touch interface and it can map it to buttons on the screen. Here is my loaded sketch in the Arduino IDE. So if I go over to the XPT2046 bitbang CPP file, there's this define, rerun calibrate. Normally it's false because you don't want to be calibrating the screen every time you run this project. But to get started, I set this to true, and then I program the cheap yellow display with this sketch. So the way I've got the IDE configured, I'm just using a generic ESP32 dev module, and I choose the serial port that appears when I plug it in. Everything else I left as defaults. And when the board is programmed so that rerun calibrate is true, we turn on the serial monitor, and when I reboot this, it will give instructions in the serial monitor, so I'm going to let it run. It says touch top left corner and hold. Now bottom right corner and hold. And now it's done calibrating the touch screen and it's running the normal sketch. And I don't know if I can show it here, but when it says to tap and hold in the top left and the bottom right, if you look at it in certain light, you can see the different shades of black here. So you can see where the actual screen corner should be, like right here. So once you do that, it goes into the normal project and you can touch the display and those buttons will respond. Now that I know it's calibrated, I don't want that to happen every time I power on because it will lose calibration if I don't do it. So I'm changing it back to false for rerun calibrate, and I'm going to program it again. So now it just went straight into running the program without calibrating. Another thing I've made a note of here, between the two cheap yellow displays I have, one of them worked okay for the display colors, and the other one had inverted colors. Black was white and so on. So I found if I do need to invert the colors, I can go edit the display.cpp file, and there's a line here about inverting the display, and you just set it true or false until it looks right with the colors. And I'm in the serial monitor, so now is a good time to show one of the ways this can be used. I'm not plugged into an external UART. I'm only plugged into the laptop with USB. So I have a USB serial connection here. So I'm on USB UART instead of external UART, and 1152 is my communication rate. So if I start, it will show if there's RX or TX activity, and it's confirming I'm on USB with that speed. So right now, on the computer, if I just put some text, as soon as I hit enter, that will come over to the serial monitor cheap yellow display. There it is. So if I just write some gibberish and hit enter, there it is. And I can send from here. So if I tap this keyboard icon, it will toggle a keyboard on and off. I can use the boot button on the back to toggle that on and off. So if I just type in some things here and enter, that shows up in the serial monitor over the serial USB connection. So if I'm going to hook this up to another circuit with a TTL UART instead of USB, using this 4-pin header on the side, it has V in and ground, which is where you can give 5 volts and ground to this display to power it. And then you have TX and RX pins with series 100 ohm resistors going to these connections here, called U0 TXD and U0 RXD. And those pins are directly on the CH340, so you can get to the ESP32's transmit and receive either over the USB cable or with direct GPIO. But what I found is, if I have the USB cable plugged in and I'm powering the module that way, and the CH340 chip is active, that dominates the TTL UART, and I cannot receive serial data from another Arduino on the GPIO pins because they're being forced to a different level here with the more direct connection to the ESP. So if I'm hooking up TTL TXRX to another project, I'm going to use that 4-pin header to provide 5 volts and ground to this board. So right here, using the TTL 3.3 volt operating UART, I made an ESP32 demo project that just sends out serial text over and over with a 1 or 2 second delay between lines. So I'm connecting transmit out from ESP32 project, going to the receive in, and I also have the V in and ground on this header, taking 5 volts from this ESP project to power this whole display. So after powering on, I clicked on external UART because I'm using these GPIO pins instead of the USB connection, and I'm choosing 115200 as my configured serial port speed. I'm going to reset the ESP32 sketch and start this terminal, and there's the lines of text coming in. So by the time this serial monitor started running, we were on line 5 coming out of the ESP. So I'm going to let this fill the screen. Then we get a scroll bar over here because there's a buffer and we can scroll back if we want. But what I found is if there's new text coming in, it's going to bring us back to the current. So if I try to scroll, I can scroll up, but it immediately brings me back to the present. So if I unplug the serial wire, now there's no new text coming in. So now I can scroll back. I'm all the way back at line 13 at the top of the buffer, and it's not forcing me down to the current information. If I plug in the serial wire again, now text starts coming back in and we're back to the current time period. And we can see we jumped from receiving line 66 to line 101 because we pulled the wire and we were not getting text. While we're here looking at this, since I have a micro SD card plugged in underneath, we have a record icon at the top. So if I click and make that red, now we are logging serial text on the micro SD card, and it's going to create separate files every time we start or stop. Turn it on again. So it's taking logs again. So I could look at that later if I wanted to go through any data this way. So now, if I take out the micro SD card, when I open the SD card as a drive, there's a logs folder, and each separate instance of turning on the log record, I get a different session text file. So here I turned it on and off quickly, and I got these 2 serial incoming lines, line 30 and line 31, and then 168 through 175 before I turned it off again. So that can be convenient as well as real-time observing what's on the display. So I think that covers how to get one of these cheap yellow displays set up using this certain configuration. And that's going to be much easier and more convenient than always having to have a more expensive serial terminal that takes up a lot more real estate when space is always limited.